So today I'm going to show you how to make this little snowman ready for Christmas. We will need white, black, red and orange yarn, 2 safety eyes, a stitch marker, a needle, a 2mm hook, pair of scissors and stuffing for inside. And I also put in the bottom these polythene plastic balls that you can get online. That just makes it weighty at the bottom, so it stands up better. So for row 1, we're going to do a magic circle. So you wrap it around your fingers and then you pop your hook underneath, pull it back through, grab the yarn and just pull it through your hoop. That's the start of your magic ring. We're going to do 6 single crochets in here. So this will be our first one. Just give it a little tug to make it the first stitch tighter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last one is 6. 6, and then we just need to pop our stitch marker in on the last stitch of every row because we're working in the round. That one goes in there, and then we tug the loose piece of thread to close up the hole, just like that. And that's row 1 complete. Row 2, we are going to increase in every stitch. So we've got 6 on there at the moment. We're going to end up with 12 at the end of this row. So this is the first one. Go back in that same stitch. That's number 2. Next one's 3 and 4. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then for the last 2 we need to take the stitch marker out because that is our last stitch. So that will be 11 and 12. And then just remember to put your stitch marker back in. And then on this row I tend to give the other string a little bit of a tug just to close it up completely there. Row 3, 1 single crochet and then an increase. So we find this first stitch here, we do our 1 single crochet, and then in this next stitch here we're going to do 2. We're going to repeat that all the way around. So that's 1, the second one in there, and then we've got a 1 single crochet and then 2 in this next one, one single crochet in the next stitch, followed by 2 in the next, just keep repeating this all the way around. And we should finish the last stitch with the increase. So that's your row 3 complete. Row 4, 2 single crochets and then your increase. So there's 1. This is your second single crochet. And then the next one is where you do your increase. And you're going to repeat that sequence all the way around, and I'll meet you back at your stitch marker. Row 5, 3 single crochets and then your increase. So I'll do the first ones with you. 1, 2, 3, and then your increase stitch. So that's just the 2 in the same stitch. And I will meet you back round when you finished your round here. We should have 30 stitches on your work. Row 6 is 4 single crochets and then your increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 in this one. And then when you finish at your stitch marker, you should have 36 stitches on your work. So I'll meet you back at the end. Row 7, we are going to do 5 single crochets followed by your increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 in the next one. So that's your increase. And then you repeat that pattern all the way around to your stitch marker. So on your stitch marker, you should have your increase. And we're going to end up with 42 at the end of this one. For row 8, we are going to be working in the back loop only. So we're going to do 6 single crochets. So you just need to get the back part of your stitch and go through. So this is 1. And this one's 2. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the next stitch we're going to carry on with an increase. So we need to do 2 in this back loop. So we've got 1 and another one in that back loop. It's 2. So you're going to carry on back loop only, 6 single crochets and then an increase, and I will meet you back here. Row 9, we're going up to 7 single crochets. Now this time we're going to take the whole of the stitch. So push it through both loops. Oh, that one's a bit tight. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then your increase. So 2 in this next one. I want you to carry on with that same sequence, 7 single crochets, then an increase, back to the stitch marker, and by then you should be on 54 stitches. Now this is row 10, and for rows 10 all the way through to and including row 17, so that's the next 8 rows, we are just going to do 54 single crochets all the way round. No more increases. So we're making the body part at the moment, so a single crochet into every stitch, and there should be 54, and I will meet you at the end of row 17, so in 8 rows time. This is row 18. We are going to do 7 single crochets and then we're going to do a decrease. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the decrease is the next front loop or the next 2 stitches. So here's 1, and then we pull the hook back under, it's popped up, and catch the second loop of the next stitch. So you've got 2 front stitches and your original stitch. Pull the yarn through, just give it a bit of a wiggle. So we've got 2 on there, and then we can finish off that stitch, yarn over and pull through. So we're going to do 7 single crochets followed by a decrease all the way around to the end. Row 19 is going to be a whole row of single crochets. So it is 1 single crochet into every stitch. And you are going to continue all the way around to your stitch marker, and you should end up with 48 single crochets on this round, same as what we finished with on the round before. So I'm going to let you carry on and I will meet you back at the stitch marker. Row 20, we are doing another decrease round now, so we're going to do 6 single crochets and then a decrease. So we've got 1, 2, stitch mark at 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we have another decrease, so it's the front loop of the next 2 stitches together. So it's 1, and then catch the other loop, wiggle it through, and then finish your stitch. So if you carry on with your 6 single crochets followed by your decrease, and I'll see you at the end of this row. Row 21, we are going to do a single crochet into every stitch on this round, and at the end of the round you are going to end up with 42 stitches on your hook. Okay. So I'm going to let you carry on and meet me at the end of this row. Row 22, we are going to do 5 single crochets followed by a decrease. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we've got our 2 stitches together. So we take the front loop of the next 2, pull the yarn through, and then finish your stitch. So if you carry on, 5 single crochets followed by a decrease, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. Row 23, we're now down to 4 single crochets and then a decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our decrease. This is going to make the neck. There we go. If you carry on, 4 single crochets and a decrease, and I'll meet you at the end. Row 24, we are now on 3 single crochets and then a decrease. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and then our decrease. And then you carry on. I'll meet you at the end of this row. Row 25, we're going down to 2 single crochets and then you'll decrease. So there's the 2 singles. And then we're just going to do our decrease in the next 2 stitches. So carry that on around, and at the end of this row you should have 18 on your round. Okay, so before we go any further, we are going to add some of these poly pellets to the base, and I find the easiest way is to pop it in the bag, fill it up a little bit that way, so they don't all go over the floor. Enough. But don't worry if you haven't got poly pellets, fill it normally with your fibre, and then at the end when I finish the head I'll show you a way to keep the base flat so it'll sit up no matter what. So once you put your poly pellets in, we're going to add the filler, your stuffing, whatever you use, on top of that before the head starts getting larger. Bit more. Okay, just like that. So we're going to start with the head now. Now I'm going to revert back to saying it's row 1 just because it's going to be easier for me. So on row 1 we are going to do 2 single crochets in every stitch around. So we've got 1, 2, just keep going all the way around, 2 single crochets into every stitch. That's 3, whoops, let's do that one again. 4. So keep going. You should end up with 36 at the end of this round. Now row 2, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 5, and then we're going to do an increase. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, to really look for them because they're quite close together at the moment, 5, and then we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. So that's 2 stitches in this one. 1, 2. So continue that all the way round to the stitch marker where we should end up with 42 stitches. Row 3, we're going to do 6 single crochets this time and then an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then our increase. So 2 in the next stitch. It's 1, 2, and I will meet you at your stitch marker once you're finished. Row 4, we are now doing 7 single crochets and then an increase. And this is the last increase round for a little while. So we have got under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not going to work. 6, 7, and then our increase in the next stitch. That's 1 and number 2. So if you carry on going round, and I will meet you at the end of this row. Rows 5 to the end of row 8, so that's the next 4 rows. We're going to do 1 single crochet into every stitch. So we're going to do straight ones again. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So keep going all the way around. So there should be 54 in total, and I will meet you at the end of row 8. So that's after 4 rows. Okay, we're now on row 9. We're going to do 7 single crochets, and then we're going to do 2 together, which is a decrease. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and decreases these 2 stitches together. So you pick up the front loop of the next 2 stitches, pull the yarn through and finish a stitch. So you're going to carry on doing 7 single crochets followed by a decrease, and I'll meet you back at the row counter. This is row 10. We are down to 6 single crochets and then 2 together, and at the end of this round you'll have 42 stitches on your work. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, followed by your decrease, which is 2 stitches together in the front loop only. So if you want to carry on, I'll meet you back at the stitch marker. Now we're on row 11. We're going to go down to 5 single crochets and then a decrease. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your decrease. So I'll meet you back at the stitch marker when you finish this round. Now it's time to attach the eyes to your piece of work, and we want to aim for going between rows 8 and 9. So we know that we've just done row 11, which is here, 11, 10, 9 and 8. So we want to go on this section here, and then we want about 3 or 4 stitches apart. So I'm going to pop one in here and see how we go. It's quite tough with this cotton to get them in. Okay, so that's one in. So then I want 3 to 4 rows stitches between. So we've got 1, 2, 3. I'm going to pop him about here for the second one. He will go in. There we go. And then we need to attach the safety backs on so they won't come out. So we just push them on the back and feed them down the tube. And the same with the other one. That's it, so they're in there securely now. And there we have him. Row 12, we're going to do 4 single crochets. We're gradually closing the head and then another decrease. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to keep the tension quite tight, otherwise you'll end up with big holes in it and your stuffing showing through. And this is our decrease. So if you carry on, I'll meet you back round at the stitch marker. Row 13, we're down to 3 single crochets before our decrease. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. Okay. So I will meet you back at the stitch marker when you finish this round. So before we go any further, we need to put some stuffing in the head because we're gradually closing it. And make sure you push it straight way down into the body section as well if there needs any more down there. Feed it all the way into the edges. And there we go. Now we're just going to carry on with 2 single crochets and a decrease. Remember to try and keep it as tight as you can on these bits as we're closing up the head. So we've got 1, 2, and then our decrease. So if you want to carry on, and I'll meet you back at your stitch marker. Row 15, 1 single crochet and then a decrease. So it's going to close the hole up gradually. So that's our 1. And then our decrease, and keep it as tight as you can. And you carry on, I'll meet you back round at the end. Now this is row 16, it's going to be your last actual crochet round, and you're going to have to do 2 single crochets together, so you're decreasing all the way around. Try and get your finger in. So here's our first one. And then you need to go straight the way around to your next stitch, which is here. And just keep decreasing all the way around, so there should be 6 times. Two, back on there. So I'm going to carry on, because it gets quite fiddly and you don't want to be watching me struggling like this, and I'll meet you back at the end. Now this is what we've been left with, tiny hole to fill. So we're going to stop there. We need you to leave quite a long thread for this. Just cut it there and pull it through. Then we're going to sew in the last 6 stitches that we're left with. And then I'm going to show you how to make the bottom flatter so that it can stand up whether you've got pallets in or not. Okay, so what we need to do is to pick up all of our 6 stitches that are left. So we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one up here is that last one, that's number 6. And then we give it a tug to close up the hole, like so. And we're going to push the needle all the way through to the bottom. So you have to squash him down. So it comes out of the bottom. Here it comes. Sometimes I usually get my pliers to do this. Yep, get my pliers. Hey, got my pliers. A lot easier to grab hold of. You pull it through, and I want it kind of in the middle, so I'm going to bring it back up in the middle section around here, and then we need to go back down and through to the top again. There it is. And it's popping back into shape. And we need to pull it up so the bottom starts to concave in, just like so. And I'm going to do it off to the left here because I know that the hat's going to be on there, that side, so it's going to cover up any stitching that I'm going to put in now, and we're going to tie it off so it just keeps that bottom base firmer. So you can stand him up whenever you need to. Okay, just a couple more. And that should be enough to secure it. So we've got a nice flat bottom. And we know that we're going to be popping the hat on at the top, so none of this is going to be seen either. Just pop him back into shape. And there we go. Next we're going to start making the accessories for the snowman. So we're going to do the hat. So row 1, we have a magic circle. And in that magic circle we are going to do 6 single crochets. So I'm using the black thread, but unfortunately it's not the best to see that you're working with. Okay, so we've got a magic ring, and we're going to do our 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we need to pop our stitch marker back in on this one. You can see where you're going, and pull the hole to close it. There we go. Now row 2, we're going to do an increase in every stitch. So we've got 2 single crochets in every single of the 6 stitches, which will take you up to 12. 1, come through, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and then we need to remove the stitch marker to get to the last stitch, which will be our 11 and 12, which is just here. So pop this one back in, and then we're going to tug it a little bit more just to close up this hole here. I'll just give it a little bit of a pull. There we go, it's disappeared. 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet and then an increase. 1 in there and 2 in the next one. It's very difficult to see when you're working with black. There we go. So I'll let you carry on. 1 single crochet followed by an increase all the way around. Row 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase. So we have 1, 2, and then 2 in this next one here for your increase. So you carry on around and I'll meet you back at your stitch marker. Row 5, we're going up to 3 single crochets and then our increase. 1, 2, 3, and then this next one we're going to do our increase, so 2 stitches in this one, and then repeat the pattern all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the end. For row 6, we're going to work in the back loop only, all the way around, single crochets. So I'll do a few with you. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to carry on. There should be 30 stitches all the way around. You're working in the back stitch, which will give you the where it goes down the side for the hat. Now for row 7 through to round 10, so we're doing row 7, 8 and 9, so it's 3 rows. We're just going to do 30 single crochets all the way around because we're going down the side of the hat now. So you're going through both stitches. Let me get in. There we go. So if you carry that round for the next 3 rows of just 30 stitches all the way around. Now for row 10, we are going to do 3 single crochets followed by a decrease. Just put this in a bit better. It's catching. There, it's better. So this is our first one. Second one. Third one, and then we're going to do 2 together for our decrease. Okay, so if you want to carry that routine all the way around, 3 single crochets followed by a decrease. Now this is my last stitch on this round, round 10, and I'm going to be changing to white. So before I finish the stitch, I'm going to attach the white and pull it through the stitch that way. Just like that. And then I can pop the stitch marker in. You don't have to change colour, you can just have an entirely black hat. But I think it looks quite nice with a stripe in it. So for this round, it's row 11, we're going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Just take that stitch marker out. So this one is going to be a last stitch. So we're going to start it off with the white, finish it off with the black. It gives it a nicer join. And then I'm going to cut the white and tie the two ends together. Just pull the stitch a bit tighter. And then they can stay inside. And there's your white stripe. So around 12, again, another whole row of just single crochets all the way around. And again, try and keep them as tight as you can. So if you want to carry on, I'll meet you back at the end here. Now, row 13, we're going to do half double crochets around this one. So we need to chain 2 to begin with. 1, 2, and then 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. So you put your yarn over. So half double crochet is when you pull the thread all the way through the 3 loops that were on your hook. So we're doing 2 in that same one. So there we have our chain of 2 and our 2 half double crochets. Now we're going to do alternating 1 half double crochet and a increase of a half double crochet. So this next stitch is going to be just the one on its own. And again, you just put it all the way through. And then for the increase, next stitch is going to be yarn over, push it through, and we're going to do 2 in this stitch. Just like that. So you need to work your way all the way around, doing 1 half double crochet followed by 2 in the same hole, so your increase. This is at the end of my row 13, and we need to finish it off with a slip stitch. So where we've done this chain of 2 here, we're going to take the top stitch and slip through just like that. Pop our stitch marker in, and then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do 2 single crochets followed by an increase all the way around. 1, 2, and then an increase in this next stitch. So we're going to do 2 in here. 1, 2. So we need to repeat that all the way around, and this is your last round. You're going to end up with a slip stitch at the end as well, and then we just cut off the yarn. Okay, so I've just finished my slip stitch. I'm going to cut the yarn, pull it through, and then I'm just going to sew it in. And just weave it through the back for a few stitches just so it doesn't come loose. Okay, so there we have our finished snowman's hat, which will sit there. And we'll go on now to make the nose. Now, row 1 of the nose is a magic circle. And in this magic circle, we have got to do 4 single crochets. So this one's going to be quite fiddly because it's small. So we just tighten that up a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the stitch marker, which seems to be sitting on my watch, and we pull it closed, just like that. Now, row 2, we're going to do 1 single crochet followed by an increase. Now it will be quite tight and fiddly because you've only got 4 on your work at the moment, 4 stitches. So this is our first single crochet. And then in the next one, we need to do 2 in this one here. One, 2, and then we're back to 1 single crochet. And then take the stitch marker out to do the last 2 stitches in here. This is your increase. One, and 2. And make sure you pop your stitch marker back in. What we need to do is try and keep the work the other way. So we need to push through like this. Otherwise you're going to have an inside out nose and it won't look right because you'll have the thread hanging out the middle. So just keep working your way through until you get it out the right way. I forgot to record the video for row 3, which is 1 single crochet into every stitch. So you'll end up with 6 single crochets on this round. Before we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So it's 2 single crochets followed by an increase. One, 2, and then an increase in this next one. One, 2. Keep the work out the right way. So you follow that around, 2 single crochets and an increase, and then you're going to leave a long tail for sewing it on. Okay, so this is what I've ended up with. I'm going to cut off the yarn. Obviously we need some for sewing it on. Pull that through, and then with this one, trim it off. Otherwise it's just going to get in the way. So there we have our carrot ready as the nose. So the last thing to do is the scarf. Okay, so I've got my red yarn. We are going to make a loop and we are going to chain 70. So we've got 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, go through 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69 and 70. So there we have our chain of 70. Now for row 2 we're going to do 1 half double crochet in the third chain from the hook. So we've got 1, 2, 3. We're going to pop him in here. And there we have our 3 loops. So for our half double crochet we're just going to pull the yarn through all 3. And now for the rest of the row we're going to yarn over, and in every stitch we're going to do a double crochet. So we pull the loop back through, so we have our 3 loops on our hook. We're going to pull back through the first 2 and then yarn over again and pull back through the last 2. So that is a double crochet. Let's do another one of those with you. So the next chain, pull it back through, pull through 2, pull through 2. So you're going to carry on doing these double crochets all the way along in every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end. Now the last row of the scarf we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to turn our work around, and we're just going to do half double crochets this time all the way down. So you want to go into your first stitch. Let's start that one again, it's a bit loose. Yarn over into your first stitch, pull through, then you're going all through 3. There we go, there's your half double crochet. Let's do another one with your yarn over into your second stitch and all the way through the 3 loops. So there we have it. So if you continue all the way through, I'll see you at the end. Okay, now I've just finished that row, so I'm going to cut off some yarn, pull it back through, and then just sew in my edges. And that is your scarf finished. I'm just going to weave it in and out just to secure it. That's the end, done the same with the other end. Just a couple of stitches, and that is the scarf done. We can just stick the ends off now. So now it's going to be a case of just assembling the nose and the hat and give our little snowman a smile. The stitches and then into our snowman just to secure him in. So I tend to go slightly behind when I do my stitches so that it's hidden behind the nose and you can't see it. Oops. So you've got one in here, we're going to go back up through a stitch and then back down the next one, and this time we're going to attach it to our face. Put it tight, up one stitch, back down the next one, and then onto our snowman. Pop it tight. Just keep weaving your way around, up one stitch, down the next one, and then actually attach it to the snowman's face. Slightly behind. Almost there. Up one stitch. Down the next one. Get rid of that pin now, we don't need that one. Give it a tug. And then our last stitch through. Okay, so that's secured in there nicely. I'm just going to hide the thread back through like that and get rid of it. That's going to be under the hat. There we have him with his nose. I'm going to give the snowman a smile. So what I tend to do is I've cut off a selection of yarn and I don't want it that thick. So I'm just going to take two. One. Let me have those two. Let's take that one out. And that one. I've got one. Two, and I'm going to thread them and find a smile for him. Okay, I'm just going to tie a knot in the other end. I'm going to come from up here because I know that's going to be under the hat. And just try and work out where we'd like his smile line. I'm going to start it from about here and work my way around. So you're going to pick out each stitch and we do what's called a back stitch. So I've gone through there, I'm going to go back to this one and then up in the next stitch along that one there. So back through that one. going a bit more. So how many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So with this one we need to broaden his smile a bit up here. And come back down into that one. I'm going to feed it back up to the top here again. So there we have a nice little smile. And I'm going to cast this one off up here. I'm not worried about this black showing because it's going to be under the hat. I'd rather not lose it in the body and it works its way loose. I'll just feed that through that last one and tie it off. There we go. There's our nice smile. Last thing's the hat. Decide where you want to have it. So I think I'm quite happy with it about there. So we're going to need our black thread. I'm going to use the full amount of thread this time. I'm not going to make it thinner because we want to secure it quite tightly onto the head. So I've cut off a section of black yarn. Tie a knot in the end. And I'm going to start by going up under the hat here, just to hide the knot inside, like so. And I'm going to literally weave it through the stitch marks and catch the head underneath as I go, but try and keep it near the middle of the hat so you don't have all your stitches showing, and then just poke it back up through, back down another stitch, so you won't actually be seeing these stitches once it's sewed on, and then catch the head underneath the hat with the body, like so. Just keep working your way around. Get rid of that pin now, we don't need that. We're just about back where we started. Let's call his nose. There we are. Just finally feed it through the head, and now I'm going to cut it off the other side. Scissors. Okay, so there's our snowman with his hat on, and we just need to add his scarf around the middle. And And there you have it. Well, thank you for watching the video and the tutorial. I'm going to continue putting free patterns and step-by-step tutorials up. So just look out for me on YouTube. Maybe subscribe, and then you'll be sent a link to see them as soon as they come up. Thank you.